party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Flirtin' at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. This is a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Pennyworth, Season 1, brought to you by the good people at Primrose Hill Productions, DC Entertainment, Warner Horizon Television, and Bruno Heller, who also, I believe, was the producer on Gotham. Joining me tonight, against his will, is to talk Pennyworth, that premiered on the Epix channel, Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Mark Radulich, you old wanker.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, my goodness.
You've been busting at the seams all week to just call me British slang terms.
Sir, it's late in the evening. I fancy a kip, but here I am with you. Blimey, I'm ready to talk some Pennyworth.
Can we just pause on this and address the fact that we recorded a podcast earlier this week where I had to behave myself, but I don't have to behave myself anymore.
No, you don't.
This is my show, and you're used to me.
Yes, that is true.
So let me ask you a question.
Please.
Do you fancy a fag?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Half of the people listening to this just went, all right, and click. Delete.
Pack of fags, if you will.
Oh, you want a pack of fags, do you?
Please.
I'm going to just smoke a whole carton of fags.
Oh, blimey. Well,
You tosser.
that's the dog's bollocks, if you ask me. Yeah, I'm in the middle of...
Shagging the Queen?
Yeah, oh my gosh, can you believe that happened?
Shag the Queen! Oh, I want to shag her. She looks fun.
Yeah, she does. So I'm in the middle of watching this show. I'm in the process of reading Constantine, Ham Sandwich. I'm in the middle of reading that, and so the British speak is just washing over me. So I'm upstairs. It's in the middle of the week last week. I'm changing a toilet seat, and I'm cussing at myself and yelling at myself about how I should have used the correct screwdriver. You tosser! What are you doing, you tosser? It was just it became a part of me, and I think every day as I would watch another episode of Pennyworth, I would up my game to try and see if I can potentially out British speak myself from the previous day.
I like the messages you sent me via Facebook Messenger that said "Steady on."
The Steady on, which I'd never heard of until we watched this show.
It's because you don't watch enough Monty Python.
Well, yes, that's true. What is your wife? She's known as an Anglophile. Is that what you call her?
Yes, that was what I was going to say. Are you becoming an Anglophile? Are you and your wife watching the Downton Abbey?
No, that's negative. I'm not watching. About the only thing that I've watched that's really primarily out of the United Kingdom is Doctor Who.
I haven't even watched Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not for some people. I actually have had to have the. Oh my gosh! Why would words go away right now? Because I had to have the subtitles on. Thank you. I had to have the subtitles on in order to understand some of the stuff because number one, they speak fast, and sometimes there's a lot of phrases that they say that I cannot completely understand. So luckily tonight, I went to the internet, and I have at least 10 different British expressions sheets right in front of me, just in case.
Okay,
I want to call somebody. I want to call somebody a daft wanker. Bits and bobs. Get the old bits and bobs. Fancy a cup of tea?
Are you going to eat some biscuits while you do this?
No, but I will have some crumpets, sir.
Oh, Jesus.
Fuck your biscuits. I'll have my crumpets.
You seem like a wanker to me.
Sawed off. Oh, Pennyworth.
All right, for the two of you that are left listening to this, Penny, we thank you, Bob. You are our number one fan.
Guy.
Pennyworth explores the early life of the titular Wayne family butler, Alfred Pennyworth. Jesse was very excited about this because God knows he's a huge fan of Alfred.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about this show? Shortly before this started, we were rewatching the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. Mm-hmm.
And they do the joke about how like everyone's getting a comic book movie, and and of course, that iteration of Teen Titans Go is always theater of the absurd. So it's like everyone's getting a movie, and and so Robin thinks he's getting a movie, and it's just like, no, it's Alfred. But it's not Alfred as any kind of agent of anything. He's like polishing the silver. And then of course the utility belt gets a movie, and then the car gets a movie.
That's a funny show.
Yes, it is. But Alfred really does get his own show, and he's not just polishing the silver. He's a former British SAS soldier who is forming his own security company in an alternate London, which combines aspects of London in the 1950s and 60s with inventive events and practices. For example, televised public execution. So
yeah, well, I'm glad you said that because I was really worried that was actually happening in our history at some point. I was like, they hang these dudes and then they disembowel them at the same time for live TV? That was one of my first notes.
Really? The fact that there's no Prince Philip and they only refer to the Queen as the Queen didn't give it away?
Who's Prince Philip?
Alrighty. Someone doesn't watch The Crown.
Someone does not, sir. Someone does not.
By the way, that fancy a shag with the Queen is an Eddie Izzard bit, and he's talking about Queen Elizabeth. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say Pennyworth shags the Queen in this show.
He does. She can't get enough of that Pennyworth.
Oh no, she cannot. No way. I would have had no idea. This could have been a very true representation of London, and I would have believed every little bit of it.
There was no coup after World War II in London, Jesse.
The Raven Society didn't exist?
No, Jesse.
Bullshit. I thought I was watching a fucking biopic on a fictional character. Yeah, a character there. So, anyway.
Okay. So history was not your thing in high school, was it?
How close to these guys... give me at least a round estimate of mileage between where this took place and Wales.
Alfred becomes a target of the Raven Society, a group conspiring to take over the British government, and begins working against them alongside American agents of the No Name League, Thomas Wayne and Martha Kane. Martha, the future parents of Bruce Wayne / Batman. So, we're not going to go episode by episode. We very rarely do that here. We kind of talk about general themes and plots and characters. That's how we handle things here on TV Party Tonight. Let's take an overall look at this. So, there were kind of 3 parts to this whole series. There was, you're getting to know ya stuff. They introduced the No Name League. They introduced Thomas Wayne, Martha Kane. They introduced Alfred and the whole, him setting up the security company. They just kind of get all the pieces on the board. And, then the first couple episodes sort of deal with him and his girlfriend and then come fiance. And he's kind of dealing with her and trying to get himself established. And he's doing missions for Thomas Wayne and or Martha Kane. And there's some sexual tension building up between him and Martha. And then some mystery person kills the girlfriend. And then kind of Martha and Thomas kind of do their own thing for a while, and he's hunting for who killed the girlfriend, or the fiance. And that takes up a good part of the middle of the show. And then he finally resolves that storyline, and whatever Martha and Thomas are doing kind of resolve their storyline, and then the show kind of doubles back to where it started, dealing with the Raven Society trying to take over the British government, which they are at least momentarily successful. And so the last few episodes deal with that. Deal with the Raven Society and overthrowing the Queen and restoring London to its rightful parliamentary government, and doing away with the Raven Society.
Hooray!
They kind of knit together a relationship between Martha Kane and Thomas Wayne, and for a little while there, this almost feels like, almost like a Back to the Future thing where Martha almost ends up with the wrong guy.
Yeah, whoa, and which right then and there. So we're talking about how at one point it was after some mission, I'm sure, that Pennyworth and Martha had run. There's that sexual tension between the two, and they end up kissing.
Yeah.
And I immediately was like, that's got to be fucking awkward when he's their butler, like 10 years on down the road. Like he's he's cleaning the bathroom. She walks in, and
I bet he was cleaning her pipes.
Oh boy. Now, yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of awkward.
In the Wayne family porn, there's absolutely a scene of Alfred and Martha Kane.
Oh, someone get Pornhub on the line right now. Gosh.
Batman Begins, the porn.
I don't even want to go there. I mean, it's just it's Martha just being passed around. So,
I'm sorry. The pictures I have of now Alfred and Thomas DPing fucking Martha. We're done, folks. I can't continue.
No.
Putting it right in her bat cave.
Oh my gosh. So, all right. Well,
good luck getting this one back on track.
How are you supposed to bring it back? You can't. There's no way. Yeah. Well, anyway, that was awkward. That was awkward. But yeah, they kind of teased that, Alfred being this guy who it was hard to kind of gauge where this show was going.
Yeah.
There weren't any episodes that I completely and utterly hated. I'll tell you that right now. Overall, the intrigue was there. The problem was I had a hard time following the political stuff. The stuff that focused on Pennyworth and his pals, oh boy, Bazzer? I can't fucking remember. I want to say Bazzer and Dave Boy, if I remember correct.
Yes, Bazzer and Dave Boy.
Okay, so, and the personal stuff I really dug, but then we get into the political intrigue, and we have these two warring, but we have these two underground factions that are kind of fighting each other. That stuff, it was hard for me to follow. And that was not what I was expecting. Well, I didn't know what to expect when we got into Pennyworth. I had no idea that it was going to be... You mentioned James Bond.
Yeah, I wrote you early on and said, I know you weren't really excited about this because who gives a fuck about Alfred. I think the approach to this show is... and it's funny because I said this about Joker on Tuesday, that this felt like creative people sitting in a room developing an idea for a show or a movie and being told, no one will watch that, and them going, okay, but what if we did it with a comic book character? And then the studio or the network be like, here, blank check, go. Mm-hmm. Because right now it feels like Hollywood is just bereft of ideas for how to get people, how to get eyeballs on a product.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, the only thing that seems to be working is comic books.
Yeah,
with any
so
consistency.
Here's said script. All right, well, let's just change this name to Alfred and these couple characters to people that were somehow involved in the DC universe.
Right.
And
This absolutely feels like they just wanted to do like a British like crime show, like spy show, and they were like, well, you can't. And so it's like, so it's like, well, why don't you have a good idea for a pitch? How can we turn this into something that utilizes our DC IP? And then like Jeff Johns like throws a bunch of comic books at them and says, I don't know, lots of fucking luck here.
Yep.
maybe use the Detective Chimp. Maybe that'll help you.
Oh yeah, toss them in there. It's funny because some of the fear that I had for this is also reflected in what I had with Krypton, where I was like, oh crap, we're going all the way back, and we're going to be telling a story of previous characters that really weren't established in the DC universe. The main character that it's kind of based on, maybe, but that character's not going to be showing up here. So we have the same thing here. We have Pennyworth happening in the past. Batman's not going to be showing up. And the only thing that really kind of differentiates Krypton from this, just looking at those two aspects of it, is they actually took elements from the future or from our current continuity and threw them back into the past. Hence, oh goodness, what was his name? I want to call him Animal Man. I can't remember his name.
Adam
from Krypton.
Strange.
Adam Strange, thank you. He is thrown back into the past. So we have all that current DC continuity kind of mixing in with what's going on at that point in time. Here, I mean, all we kind of get is Martha, Thomas, and Pennyworth.
Yeah.
Or Alfred, and that's it. And we kind of got to look at their earlier adventures. And it was going to be a tough sell for me. But like I said, I didn't hate it. So
I was hearing some people complain that, like, their issue with Thomas Wayne here is the same issue they had with Thomas Wayne and the Joker. It's like, Thomas Wayne traditionally is a doctor. Remember, he's also the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Wayne Enterprises. So I get the sneaking suspicion that Thomas Wayne... I mean, first of all, it's a comic book character. He can be whatever they want him to be. But,
yeah.
But whether he's a doctor who became a businessman, who becomes a mayor, who becomes shot in an alley, or he's, or he starts out as a CIA agent who will eventually become a doctor, who will eventually, run a business, who will eventually be shot in an alley. It doesn't really matter. He's just they're using the name because it's attached to a popular character, and they're hoping that's enough to draw eyeballs. Because let's face it, to the degree that it worked with me, and then by extension you, I wouldn't have watched this show otherwise if it hadn't been connected to the even lightly to the DC universe.
Agreed. I'm trying to think if there was even any guest stars from the DC universe or previous, like, from the 50s or 60s guest stars. Really, this had more ties to our reality than it did, like, the DC continuity. Like, Jack the Ripper's lineage is in here.
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley shows up. These are characters that granted, I haven't read a whole lot of DC comics, but I'm fairly certain these aren't big-time villains that are used in regular DC continuity.
And you have the Queen, who is clearly supposed to be Queen Elizabeth.
Yep.
Just minus Prince Philip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go watch The Crown. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I feel like
Did you do a podcast on it?
I feel like your mouth is saying yeah, but you're really saying no.
You can't see my head shaking, can you?
So let's break this up into chunks here. So this first part where we get to meet Alfred and you meet Thomas Wayne. I like the guy that plays Thomas Wayne, by the way. He is Ben Aldrich.
Yep.
And there was the way that he would deliver dialogue that I always found really interesting, very matter of fact. And so later on, when he starts to be, when he's dealing with his sister, and things are just kind of falling apart around him, it's funny. Like, Alfred to me wasn't as nearly as interesting as Martha and Thomas in this, and that was kind of my big takeaway. Was even though the show is called Pennyworth and a lot of it's focused on him, he spends Alfred I don't think is that interesting of a character. Thomas and Martha were fantastic, and I enjoyed them when they were on screen, and when they break away and have their own kind of adventures together and they bond and then eventually they start hooking up. I was more interested in their story than I was anything going on with Alfred. Yeah,
we're anticipating what's going to bring these two together because they clearly seem like they are not fit for each other at the beginning. That's the fun part about their relationship between Thomas and Martha is these two have to get together at some point. What's going to trigger that?
Right.
And Ben Aldridge, I would say that he is, out of this show, he's going to be probably my second favorite actor off of here.
Mm-hmm.
The first we'll probably talk about here in a few minutes, but I mean, he was just like you said, he's matter of fact. He was so kind of like uptight, and he didn't really want to get. He was involved with the CIA, but he didn't want to do some of the dirty work that the CIA. He definitely didn't want to get his hands dirty for some of the shit that he had to do. So it would be better for him to just go and talk to somebody else to do it for him. Hence where Pennyworth comes in. Mm-hmm. And then watching him, kind of jive with Martha, which these two had some decent chemistry. Specifically, as I really started to take notice when they went to visit Aleister Crowley's house after Martha had the night that left her in the field with 2 days missing, butt ass naked. But at that point, you could see that Thomas Wayne he definitely has an eye for Martha, and then it kind of grows. That affection kind of grows throughout the series. Mm-hmm. Thomas and Martha were a fun little addition to this. I didn't know what we was going to get. I had no idea we were going to get those two in here and that relationship. I thought this whole show was actually just going to focus on Pennyworth and they would kind of just, here's Thomas, here's how he meets Thomas, and then that would be it. We wouldn't see Thomas Wayne anymore.
Right.
So that didn't happen, which was, I think, a pleasant surprise.
I think my favorite character in this is Martha. When I like her look. She actually looks kind of like the broad from what's the name of the movie? Rogue One. Okay. I thought that was her at first, and it's like, no, wait, that's a different actress. Do you know who I'm talking about?
The girl from Rogue One. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I know who you're talking about. Though it's the main character,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, she has very similar facial structures to her, and I actually thought they were the same person. It turns out Emma Pites, I guess her name is the name of Martha Kane, the actress. Yeah, not nearly as successful as an actress as the woman who plays what's her face, Jin J. Jur Urso in Rogue One. But she has a lot of charisma. She has a lot of personality, and it's funny when she's on screen with Alfred. I'm much more interested in what Alfred's doing when she spends a few episodes, like when he loses his fiance and he begins this arc where he's chasing down the killer. He doesn't really deal with her at all. She's doing other stuff, and I remember just during that, thinking to myself, whoa, I wish they would get back together again. I wish they would do more stuff like their mission when they meet the new leader of the Ravens Society. I love that scene, by the way. So the setup to this is they go to this cottage out in the country, and they're looking for the new leader of the Raven Society because the first one, his nose got cut off or whatever.
Oh man, that guy suffered some shit, and I thought he was going to be dead, and I would never hear again from him after the second or third episode. Whenever he got released to the streets, but
right.
Wow, I was wrong.
So this old woman tries to shoot them with a shotgun, and they end up killing her.
Yep.
But they get separated, and
which, by the way, maypoles are for orgies.
Sure.
That's what he said. Martha's walking through the village with Pennyworth, and she looks over and she sees a maypole, and he goes, "You know what those are for, right, Mom?" And she's like, "They're, I have no idea what she said, but he's like, they're for orgies." I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Are you kidding me? So anyway, there you go, Mark.
I feel like this conversation about the show keeps revolving back to.
Hey, what did you tell me? You said, watch out, Jesse. Tits will be hither and dither. So I'm sorry.
I didn't lie. They were.
They were. Titties were hither and dither.
They really were hither and thither.
Hither and thither. I say dither. Okay.
Well, you're
all
right.
Wrong. All right then. Tell me about this. Tell me about this scene you want to talk about. I interrupted you.
So they drug Martha. and you don't realize that like she's playing possum and she's like feigning being woozy. And they get the information that they need, and suddenly she like comes alive and like takes out everybody. You know, it's a great scene, and you know, and as far as female action characters go, she's very capable without being shrill or shrew or you know overly like feminist. You know, she's just like given the time and place this is taking. You know, she's just like all she's saying is I am able to play on the same field as you men. No more, no less. But she has a lot of sexual chemistry with Alfred, and so I wish the show had been a little bit more of them going on missions. And that was one of the disappointments of the show for me, was they would start on something really, really good and then just as quickly abandon it and go in this direction that I wasn't interested in.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I don't know, scatterbrained, like we got to get this in there, we got to get this in there. Okay, so it's almost like there was a point A to point B, but they went all over the place to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. There were parts throughout this series that I did not expect to happen at all.
I didn't think that Bet Sykes was going to be a major character.
Yep. Yeah. I thought she's in jail. Okay, we won't have to worry about her. Oh, nope, not the case. Lord Harwood I can't remember his first name. Oh,
Did you say Lord Hardwood?
Yeah. Lord Harwood. Taking Peter North on a trip down south. Lord James Harwood. Okay. Now you got me saying it. So that dude was being tortured.
Listening to this podcast, and they're talking about Pennyworth, but this one guy keeps going back to porn for some reason.
Just trying to make it through. Trying. Jason Fleming, he was in there for, I think, 2 or 3 episodes, and then he's dumped on the street. That was another character I thought, well, we won't see him again.
And homeboy ain't got no nose.
Dude, you talk about fucked up.
Yeah.
They cut his nose off, and then they cut they cut off half his feet. He is living under a piece of cardboard, and then he gets befriended by some creepy dude that just decides to chain him to a wall and pretend he's a dog. Where did that come from? And then, of all things, Bet comes and saves him. And I was like, what is going on here? So he comes back into prominence. He's the leader of he was the leader of the Raven Society. So yeah, there was stuff that was happening in here that I did not see coming, and I was still invested a little bit. Granted, sometimes it'd be hard to follow, but you know, I was still invested. Bet Sykes, by the way, what is Paloma Faith? I think is her name.
Yep.
There's my top billing right there. I think she was as big as a player you thought she was going to be. She wasn't. She becomes this like major. It's like kind of a villain / anti-hero type deal towards the end of things.
Yeah, like she ends up teaming up with Pennyworth for a little while.
Mm-hmm. And she played Psycho pretty fucking well.
Yeah, she was a fun character. Like Pennyworth, I think by himself, especially in the middle of the series where he's sort of mourning the girlfriend. Like, I don't think he's that interesting. And when he's with his buddies, I don't think he's that interesting. When he's either with Bet or when he's with Martha, he's fun. Like, he definitely needs a character to play off of. I want to read you the reception part of the wiki here and get your reaction.
Okay.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the series holds an approval rating of 70% based on 23 reviews, with an average rating of 7.56 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, while intriguing characters and impressive set pieces make for an engaging spy thriller, Pennyworth doesn't add much to the greater Batman mythos.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean...
But I don't understand why anyone would expect it to.
Yeah, there's... The only way that you could potentially do that is by throwing big spots throughout the series that when they happen, you're like, oh, well, that's why such and such happens in the Batman universe,
Right.
or this happens. Oh, there's the early. You're kind of wanting that to happen if you're a fanboy, which I have a big part of that is what resides in my heart. I want to see nods to what's upcoming or what's going to happen in the DC universe.
God,
but I didn't.
You and Alexis with the references.
I'm telling you, that's what should happen. But
did you
go
watch
ahead.
Gotham?
No, I did not.
So in Gotham, they would often reference Alfred's past, and and even to a certain extent in the Nolan trilogy, Alfred would talk about when he was in the jungle or and this and that. So when they announced this Pennyworth series, I was like, oh, I thought we might see Alfred through the years and in different. Apparently, before Alfred settled in as a butler in the Wayne family, he fucking lived a life. He was a man of action. He was out there having adventures, and he was going all over the world. He wasn't just hanging out the East End of London, fucking beating up bar patrons.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised that they weren't a little bit more creative and expansive with Alfred here. But I think they played it safe, and they were just like, we'll just deal with this little droplet of his life, because what if we get approved for a season 2? If we go too far, and if we connect him to the Wayne family too far down the road, we're going to have nowhere to go for a second or third or fourth season. So instead, you get this snapshot of his life at, he doesn't, this all seems to take place over maybe the course of 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't really grow all that much or change all that much. And yeah, a lot happens, but in the grand scheme of things, and what his origin is supposed to be before he settles in as the butler, you don't really get a whole lot of that out of his life. So this line about it doesn't add much to the Batman mythos, I really wasn't expecting it to. I think it would have been silly to expect that, considering once they announced they're going to do a show called, unless they're doing about contemporary Alfred, he leaves, him and Bruce go on an adventure after the parents die or something like that. Yeah. Why would it add to the Batman mythos? That they're not connected in any way.
Well, again, if you're going into this expecting it to be something like that, I mean, you've got to understand the reality of what we were talking about earlier, where it's the studio or whatever wanting to put the name from that property on the show. So, just like you said, this could have been something that was written well before they attached the name Pennyworth to it.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just don't think that you can't expect much to be added. I do know that this series seems to take place right after he gets out of the military. I mean, not like he's walking out of the military, but he's definitely not too far from being out of the military. So this is very early on in his security career, I guess you would say, or whatever you want to say. But
that's the other thing is, they make a big hue and cry about his time in the military and how it's affecting him as a person now. I would have liked to have seen more flashbacks to that then. It's referenced, but in a very vague sense. Yeah,
the only impact that I could see that it really had on the series, obviously, he's dealing with a lot of that shit throughout it. He doesn't like to use guns. That's something that comes across quite a bit. And his friends give him shit because he's like, you're not going to kill anybody. You're never going to kill anybody. Come on, man. This is you. You're not going to hurt anybody. So the war took its toll on him, and that's really the only thing you kind of get from that. It's just, well, he was in a war. He's kind of suffering maybe some PTSD, and that's how he knows his friends Bazzer and Dave Boy. But other than that, it's not really anything that drives the story forward. It's just kind of giving us a little glimpse into why he acts the way he does, and some of the characters that are around him. So I don't think it's, as much as they played it up, I agree with you. I think it was played up too much, to be honest.
I want to read you this last line here. This is Sam Barsanti of the AV Club. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but he says, as it stands, though, the show is as entertaining as it is frustrating, feeling sort of like an adaptation of a comic based on Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes movies. with all of the Britishness that implies. and that's the thing. I think if you're so concrete and you're so stuck on, but this is a Batman show, yeah, boy, are you going to be bored and disappointed.
Yeah, don't even walk into it like that.
If you're more of this is like a James Bond, Sherlock Holmes kind of, well, I don't know about even Sherlock Holmes. There's not a tremendous amount of detective work here. But if you're into like, you know, kind of a James Bond, you know, the 60s Avengers kind of a show, then this should be right up your alley. And I think for me, like that was probably like the one problem I had with this was this isn't really my genre. Because it's not a comic book show. It may feature. I said it's so funny how many parallels there are to this to Joker. But I said this about the Joker movie. The Joker movie isn't a comic book movie. It's a movie with a comic book character in it. This isn't a comic book show. This is a spy thriller show that happens to feature characters that were mentioned in a comic book.
Yep.
Like, there's no comic book, The Further Adventures of Thomas and Martha Wayne, okay?
And I don't even want to say that it fails because of that, because I think that it's a decent enough show to warrant a watch if you like that type of genre. But don't go into it because you like the characters, because I mean, I don't know much about Alfred and his history, especially in the DC, you know, comic books. And the show Gotham that you were talking about, I was just talking to a buddy of mine today who mentioned that he watched all of Gotham, and that was something that they had mentioned quite a bit throughout the series, is that he had a history.
That's a giant pile of shit.
I didn't get that far with him. He always said he liked the show, so. But anyway, I mean, did you have any theories as to, or assumptions? Did you think it was Bet who killed Esme?
Yeah, I totally thought that she was killed by the Raven Society. So it was a big fucking swerve, brah, that that it was actually... And I'm not going to lie. Some of this, like, I was looking down at my phone while it was kind of on, and I was, like, half paying attention to it. So,
I was updating the spreadsheet, sir.
So when the whole thing ties back to Curzon, I was like, when did this fucking happen?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of details that like I think that says something about the show, that there's just enough there to kind of keep you hanging on to see what's going to happen next. Like when they killed Esme, I was kind of hooked. I was like, ooh, what's going to happen next?
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I really didn't. That took me by surprise. I was like, this. I think it was episode 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's dead in episode 4, and I'm like, oh shit, what's going to happen next? So I was hooked there too.
And then later on, they shoot Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, what's going to happen now? Let's move into the middle here, and I want to go back to my favorite character, Martha, who. So Thomas Wayne has this sister, and the sister is
Patricia.
a whore and a drunk, and she's the shame of the family.
Yep.
And she essentially starts dating Satan. Like, did you understand what was happening? Because the show is, I don't want to say grounded in reality, because it's clearly in an, you know, as the description says, they're in an alternate London. You know, they're in a fictional London. But it's at least semi-grounded in reality, in the sense of, like, they're not dealing with superpowers in any of this. There's no metahumans, there's no superpowers, there's no magic. But then suddenly there's this whole subplot where she's dating a guy who is essentially, like, collecting souls for the devil.
Have you ever heard of Aleister Crowley?
Mr. Crowley.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just making sure. So yeah, this guy's known for being like one of the occult figures.
Okay.
And that at that time, so and that's what that song's based on. Yeah. So he was definitely known as being a Satanist, and his parties were out of sight, sir. That's probably pretty accurate representation of what was going on in those days at his home.
That was so funny, though. That, like, she wakes up naked and she goes home and she's trying to explain to Thomas what happened, and she, like, blacked out. And he's like, well, you clearly can't be trusted. You go to parties and fucking come home naked.
Where's my sister?
She's like, all right. Clearly I was taken advantage of. It's like, no, you just stink as a spy.
Yeah, she's like, what? I can't remember what he says. Something along the lines of, hey, you got to get your stuff together. And she's like, well, it's only Saturday. And he's like, no, it's Monday. Oh, shit. 2 days have passed. She has no idea what the hell happened.
And she's just like, we got to go fucking kill this guy. And he's
yeah,
like,
oh, man,
he's
she
like,
was
calm
pissed.
the hell down.
She was pissed. And, okay, so he goes there. Both of them go there. And you tell me if I was right when I was watching this. So they both go there, and he's like, bring Patricia down here right now. And she comes down, and Patricia's all of a sudden acts like she has a fucking bit of sense finally. She's not high off her ass. And supposedly she has found Satan. Our Lord and Savior, Satan, apparently, has corrected her ways, which is kind of strange, but all right. But yeah, she seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders. But, Thomas is like, hey, get your shit together. We're getting out of here. She's like, no, I don't want to leave. And then, of course, we have Aleister Crowley, who's kind of goading him a little bit, not being a complete asshole, but then says, hey, look, there's a devil inside you. I'll show you the devil. You could talk to the devil. He wanted his soul. That's what it was. Aleister Crowley said, I don't want your money. I want your soul. And then you can have Patricia back. And then he goes downstairs. Now, am I correct in saying that Aleister Crowley made Thomas Wayne watch a porn of his sister?
Maybe.
Okay, all right. Well, there was some kind of a ritual, and there was a lot of sexual stuff going on in this film.
There was titties hither and thither.
Hither and thither and thither and hither. And he flips out and beats the ever-loving shit out of one of Aleister Crowley's assistants there. So, and supposedly that was, now you've seen the devil. But that's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, here is a man of the world, a man of business. Show
gets very dark at times.
Yes, it does. And he goes, here's this man, a no-nonsense businessman having to deal with this occult shit. And I was like, okay, well, he's going to be all right. But nope. He comes out of there after almost beating that guy to death, chokes him and makes him eat the film. And, I mean, he's definitely he's got a mean streak. Something that you probably, maybe the whole purpose of that was just to show that Thomas Wayne can be, I don't know, a badass if he needs to be, or, he does have a beast dwelling inside of him at some point. It never comes back up in the rest of the series. So anyway. Yeah,
they left a lot. They resolved the Raven Society thing. They basically, this is moving on to like the third part of the series, like the last, I think, 2 or 3 episodes. Once Bet and Alfred do away with Caruso, and then Martha and Tom resolve the bit with Aleister Crowley. It's sort of it's all hands on deck to deal with the Raven Society and their overthrow of the Queen, and that gets resolved quickly enough. But then at the end of it, Thomas gets shot. I think the dad tries to blow up the Queen, and so Alfred's dealing with that. So they left a lot on the hook for a second season.
Yeah.
Whether or not anyone actually watched this thing, and and it gets, I don't even have.
What in the hell is Epix? Okay, can we just talk about this network real quick, because I have no idea what the hell it is again.
It's a paid cable channel.
Okay.
It's like HBO.
All right, so they show movies most of the time.
They had gotten into the live sports thing for a while. There was a lot when Klitschko was champion. They showed a lot of his fights. That's all I came to know it. So Epix is an American premium cable and satellite television network owned by MGM. Channels primarily consist of recent and older theatrical release motion pictures, original series, documentaries, music, and comedy specials. Launched in October of 2009, Epix is the youngest of the major premium television channels in the U.S. and is currently led by President Michael Wright Since he joined the network, Epix has announced many new series, including Godfather of Harlem, which I haven't started watching yet, but I have them DVR'd, starring Forrest Whitaker, which is about Bumpy Johnson. Pennyworth, the origin story of Batman's butler Alfred. Perpetual Grace. LTD, starring Ben Kingsley and Jimmy Simpson. Deep State, an unscripted series called Unprotected Sets, executive produced by Wanda Sykes. And the return of The Contender.
What's The Contender?
The Contender is an American reality TV series. Each season follows a group of boxers as they compete.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I want to say this might have been like the Stallone show.
Okay.
So that's Epix.
Got it. Well, again, this is a channel that I've never been on until I had to watch Pennyworth. I knew it existed. I just didn't know what it offered. And I mean, okay, so would this be your first Epix show that you've sat down and watched?
Yeah, I haven't really paid attention to Epix since, like I said, I would watch it for the boxing events, and then I hadn't watched it in a really, really long time. All right, so now we've had that lesson of what Epix is. Overall, the show's okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's definitely one of those that I checked out because of its relation to comic books and the kinds of things we like to cover here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I don't know if I would have watched it if I wasn't podcasting about this sort of thing. But I'm not unhappy that I watched it. This wasn't a chore. This just isn't really my genre. I'm not I like the James Bond movies that are more action oriented. I like mysteries and I like detective stories. I'm not a huge fan of the spy thriller per se. Mm-hmm. I kind of watch those things depending on the IP. If they're big blockbuster stuff like the Mission Impossibles. So would I have watched this of my own volition? Probably not. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's not worth recommending to people who like this sort of thing. Anything you've got to say just before we start to head out of here?
Let me ask you a question. Have you heard anybody else talk about this show at all?
No.
See, that's the thing. If it's going to be a good show, you want word of mouth. That's really, honestly, what I'm going to do. Is if somebody says, check this show out, I'll probably do it. If I hear 3 or 4 people say, damn, that show was good.
Yeah, this wasn't Game of Thrones.
You're not going to hear. I haven't heard anybody say anything about Pennyworth. The guy I told that I was talking to you about with when we'd had the discussion about Gotham, he had no fucking idea it existed. So I don't know if that's a failure on marketing's part. I don't know.
I don't think, like I said, I think they're hoping that comic book fans will find it, and it had a fair bit of marketing going into this. It was on all the blogs and everything. This was the thing that. Okay, so I'm on the Rotten Tomatoes site, right? The tomato meter is 69%. So the critics were there were 26 critical ratings, and they gave it an aggregate of 69%. The audience score 96% with 150 users.
Wow.
And just by comparison, apparently Batwoman's getting critic bombed.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of that yet. So.
It's all people why does Batman have to be a girl?
Hashtag not my Batman.
Yeah.
That woman, you fuck. No wonder.
Exactly. So this is some of the. We normally do this on Damn You Hollywood, but I'll read you a couple of the rotten reviews here.
Okay.
Well, do you want to hear the audience ones or the critical ones?
Well, whatever you want to hit me with, go for it.
All right, let's go to the audience ones.
They're probably a little less educated.
So the first one I see here is a 5-star review from 11 hours ago. Yeah, this is very recent. Not even that big of a superhero show fan, but this show proves all the stereotypes wrong. The show is beautifully written and has qualities of a large budget movie. CGI is almost never used and shows off the great cinematography of the show. This is true. It's got a pretty good look to it.
It does. It does.
This show is a must-watch for anyone and keeps you engaged to the last episode and then wants you wanting even more.
Okay.
5-star review from 23 hours ago. For those critics that say Pennyworth adds nothing to the Batman mythology, just stop.
Oh. Wait, dude.
Just like the glorious Joker movie, this isn't about him, nor does it need to be. See, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Here we get to see who Thomas and Martha Wayne fall in love. What else do you need? Pennyworth is brilliant, and it's set in its own timeline. We had to endure 5 seasons of Gotham with a pathetic Bruce Wayne backstory that frankly was boring. Boy, you ain't kidding. The villains made the entire show and added nothing to the on-screen Batman for it wasn't really... Okay. 4.5-star review from 3 days ago. Best show on TV. Oh my. Jack Bannon and his SAS team are refreshing heroes.
Okay.
Alfred blows Batman away. All right.
Hey, educated. What did I tell you?
Oh, here's one for you, Jesse.
Good old Jay.
5 days ago, 5-star review. I'm tired, dude. 5-star review. Jolly good. Best description of a Scotch egg ever.
Oh, my. Which, by the way, that was nasty. Watching him eat a Scotch egg or whatever the hell.
Scotch eggs are delicious. Get out of here.
All right, you've tried one?
Yeah.
Sausage wrapped. What was it again?
I don't remember.
I
don't
know. I just shoved it in my fucking face. That's all I did.
It was deep fried, and I was hungry.
Something to nosh on.
So yeah, just like in the past month alone, there's been a lot of, like, on Rotten Tomatoes at least, the user reviews. There's like a bunch of 5-star ratings. Okay, so here's a 0.5-star review.
Oh boy.
I can't express how disappointed I was at the quick collapse of this show. It started with so much excitement, great acting, interesting characters, amazing art direction, set and costumes, but then within a few episodes started to quickly collapse into an unbelievable and incoherent mess, both in storylines and in character development. It reminds me why I stopped watching Gotham. Oh, this isn't that bad. Pennyworth's character started out as interesting, but was quickly dragged through a mortal tarring that even the worst of it just goes on.
Here, I'll tell you what. I have my notes in front of me for all the episodes. Now I'm not going to read them all off, but I'll give you the highlights, okay?
Okay, go.
Ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Episode 1, not bad. All right. Episode 2, highlight. This is where we get the Ripper showing up, which was really, I thought, pretty interesting. And then we have the note where I was really concerned about people getting executed on TV like they were. I was a little scared. Episode 3, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Martha and Pennyworth are out at a airfield, and Pennyworth straight up does Die Hard 2. They can't see the airfield because the lights are turned off, so he opens up the gas tank and drives this gas truck down the airfield and then has her light it so the plane can land. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. All right. Then we have episode 4, and this one is where my biggest note out of this was fucking Pennyworth and Martha making out. That took me by surprise. I was like, whoa, wait a second. We already had that discussion, DP and all that, check earlier, about 15 minutes into the episode. Episode 5 is where Bet finds her old boss, and again, took me by surprise because he was sitting there and she found him on the street and then rehabbed him. Took him to, which, by the way, can we talk about, just real quick, how fucked up of a family Bet has? Is that her mom and dad in their underwear?
Maybe.
Oh, jeez. Remember, she was hanging out with her sister. Her sister was with that old couple, which she might have just been dominating, but they're characters throughout the whole rest of the episode. So that was kind of weird. And there was also the instance in this episode where Alfred decides to bang the bartender's daughter. Okay. Then episode 6, we have right here, according to my notes, Alfred's getting a little darker. At this point, he chops off a dude's hands. Oh yeah, this is the one with the fortune teller. A little hokey pokey stuff going on there. Episode 7, this is where Crowley right after the party with Crowley, and my first note was, "Oh man, that walk of shame by Martha." Where she's completely naked and just wrapped in a sheet, walking through a throng of men on the street. Oh man. Then episode 8, this is where he starts. I think this is where Alfred gets the name of the guy that killed Esme, which that went pretty quickly because in episode 9, I think that's where he finds out who the killer is. Goes in, the killer's like gift wrapped. And he, of all times, has never killed anybody prior to this. And he fucking puts one in that dude's head and one in the fucking maid's head that was helping him. Took me, again, by complete surprise. So the evolution of Alfred throughout the series, you could just see he goes from somebody who's not known for making those actions or taking someone's life, and then as you get towards the end, he's making those decisions to do that. So anyway, yeah, in episode 10, I mean, poor Pennyworth's dad. I can't remember, Mr. B, I think is what his wife called him, Mr. B, who gets wrapped up and then tries to kill the queen with some bombs, and right there in front of his son activates the bomb. That was pretty heartbreaking to watch him try and talk his dad out of doing this, and his dad. Yeah,
amazingly, he sets off a fucking bomb in the middle of this place, and somehow or other Pennyworth is able to get the queen out
as the building
from the middle of this building. No, don't tell me Pennyworth doesn't have superpowers.
All right, that's it, Mark. Those are my notes for the episodes. I'm ready to get out of here. I had a good time. I watched it. As much crap as I gave it, not wanting to watch it, I can at least say that I succeeded in going through it, and I actually enjoyed myself a little bit. So
if they do another one of these, we're gonna do it again.
Season 2. What fantabulous comic are you going to try and relate to this?
I don't think there is an Alfred comic.
Well, you go ahead and move on about your business, and I'll take a look and see what I can find here.
I don't know. We might just associate it to just any general Batman.
Batman.
Yeah. There's only 400 quintillion of them.
I'm sure there's some fun stuff in the Silver Age that probably involves him.
There's a Lois Lane comic.
Yep. Well, shit, dude. Man, there's been a Lois Lane comic since the 60s.
There's a Jimmy Olsen comic too.
Yep. I got a few issues of those.
Do you really?
Yeah, I got it, dude. If it was at an auction for less than 10 cents, I probably got it. So there you go.
Fair enough. All right. So I think that brings us to a close here on Pennyworth. No need to beat a dead horse here. It was okay. I'll keep watching it if it comes back on again. We'll see if it actually gets greenlit for a second season. In the meantime, Tyrone Spong dropped out of his fight against Alexander Usyk because he popped positive for some banned substance or other. So instead, Alexander Usyk is going to fight, I think it was Chaz Weatherington or some shit like that. I don't know, some ham and egger. Some jabroni. So Victor Ciccato and I will watch it, and hopefully Alexander Usyk will drop this motherfucker quickly, and then I can go to bed. In the meantime, next week is all Constantine all the time. We're going to look at Hellblazer, Dangerous Habits. Jesse and I will be back again to talk about Constantine, the series. Are you done with it yet? Are you finished?
No, dude. I got I was just figuring up. I think I got 9 episodes left, so I got to do 3 tonight. That ain't happening. 3 tomorrow, 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday.
I finished it, so...
Well, bully for you. Give me a fucking British speak right now. Where's it at? Steady on then, you fucker. You tosser.
We got Baby Metal this Wednesday. We just reviewed Steel Panther, best album of the year by far. Even Jesse knows it. Me and the Chris's reviewed Hell in the Cell, that piece of shit. We did a little...
Disqualification.
We talked a little bit about the Wednesday Night Wars. I know people have been asking, you're going to do a podcast on that? Dude, I podcast 5-6 times a week. I don't have time anymore.
Man.
Too busy dedicating an entire week to Constantine. And then Sean and I will do an on-trial for the Keanu Reeves one. So check out our 3-hour review of Joker.
Damn, it went 3 hours?
Yeah, it was a long conversation. Check out Jesse and I talking about Joker by Brian Azzarello.
That one did not go 3 hours.
It did not. The week of the 21st, we'll be doing Fear Itself, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Lacuna Coil, Black Anima, Doom, Annihilation. So we got a lot of stuff headed for you before October ends. Hope you check it all out and enjoy yourself here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Did you find anything yet?
As a matter of fact, I did, and I can't believe I had forgotten. Alfred died just recently in the comics.
You shitting me?
Nope. Release of Batman number 77, third part of the climactic City of Bane arc. That is Alfred meets his fate. So we will probably cover the City of Bane. That would probably be the best thing if we do another comic in relation to Pennyworth if it gets a second season.
All right.
So,
sounds
anything
like a plan,
else?
Stan? Nope. Take me home, baby doll.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great comic book podcasts, TV podcasts, movie podcasts, podcasts for your ass, DP podcasts.
Why don't we review more porn on here?
I feel kind of awkward doing a commentary track on that, but hey, but yeah, hey, we're going to post stuff to the Facebook page. So usually, if something drops, we're going to post it there, so you can usually find it there. If you want to just go directly to the source, go to Spreaker.com, type in Radulich, and then subscribe.
Jesse's new review show, where he takes a look at porn through the years, will be a Twitter exclusive.
Starting back with 1976. It'll be a lot of fun.
In the year of our Lord.
Oh, boy. So, anyway, yeah. So, yeah, check all that out. Just like I said, type in Radulich, and you should be able to find us. You can go to Google, type that in. Most likely you're going to find a podcast that we've done. So, that is it. Mark Radulich, take us home, sir.
All right. Thank you once again for joining us here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Be well, be safe, and behave.